on and I'm going to activate your watercolors. Now, some of you get worried. Look at this one. This one only has a little teeny tiny bit of watercolor. Teeny tiny little bit of watercolor will work just as much as one that's all the way full. If you are in the water, I want you to draw some white bubbles in your background, okay? If you are in the sky like me, I would like you to color the tops of some of those clouds white. If you have anything else you would like to be white, also color it in at this time. If I'm going to make some highlights or some little lights, maybe some light coming on their wing, maybe just a couple lights on here. For those of you who have black and white birds, fish that have white in it, sometimes in the eye you'll have a little bit of white. This is going to be wherever you need white. Okay, the first watercolor technique we're going to do is called wet on wet. I'm going to make a puddle of water. It's very important that wherever you want an edge, you don't cover that. So like I'm not going to go where I want the bushes. I'm just going to stay in the sky. And then this is very different from tempera. Tempera hates water. We have to use Old Dirty SpongeBob to soak up all the water. Watercolor loves water. So I'm going to dip in water again and then mix it in the color that I want for my sky. And then I'm going to put it on here. You're going to notice wherever I have white oil, it's going to make a resist. Now, if I want to use more than one color, I clean my brush and then I put a different color in. That's called wet on wet. So now I want to move to the next part of the sky. I'm going to make a puddle. Here was my cloud, right? That was too dark for my cloud. Watch what I do. I'm going to dry my brush on my messy mat, and with that dry brush, I can soak it back up.
Make a puddle first, then get the colors you want, because they love water.
This color, look how it's starting to mix with this color that's next to it. That's called a gradation, where it goes from one color to the next. I also had some really cool bloomings. Like I put a big dot of violet there and it expanded. The next one I'm going to do is called wet on dry. Here's a really important watercolor rule. You don't want to put a wet thing next to a wet thing. So right now, this is very wet. Do I want to paint to my bird? No, because guess what will happen to my bird? It'll mix. It'll get that gradation, right? But I can work on some landscape down here. I can maybe work on this piece. I can work on some areas that are almost touching but don't touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to wet my brush because the first word in that was wet, right? But you'll notice I didn't wet the paper. It's going to be more like a tempera paint. Do you see how it has more control? It's not moving except where I put it. You can also blot with something that is dry. I can take a paper towel and I can scrunch it up. See that cool texture right there? Watch. Now I'm going to put that cool texture on my branch. See how I'm getting the green close to the other paints, but I'm not touching it.
So it's really hard to see, but you can see, look, I have little white lines so they don't touch.
If you want to do the inside of your fish or anything, you can also, or a bird, you can also start on that. Just make sure, so see like right here on my bird, I'm being very careful for this blue not to touch the blue of the sky. If there's a bunch of debris in your sharpener, you just walk over to the trash can. If there's any kind of stoppage or you think this is broken, you can bring it to me. And when you're sharpening a colored pencil, I don't use these in the same pencil sharpener I do my wooden pencils. Just because I find if I don't mix the waxy and the graphite, my supplies last longer. I just turn this, keep this still. And I can add some depth to that gray. Gray sometimes can feel a little bit flat, but I can also go and add some feathers and some of those smaller details you don't get when you are when you're painting, right? So those little details like little feathers, the little texture on the feather, you can now go in and add some of that texture with colors. What I also love are these white ones, but you can go in and it's not super bright. Do you see how it's not super bright? Yeah. It's just adding just a little bit of texture. This area right here that I didn't paint last time, I can now go and take my watercolor, always a wet brush, always a wet brush, and I'm gonna get a little bit extra watery so it's pretty light. Now I can go right next to that edge and not have a problem. And the reason I was trying to be lighter and put more water was so that it would be lighter. So look, see how it's not blending with that color now? You can now go in and you can put another layer on the layer that you've done to create more depth. Now you can go and add color to make it brighter or darker. Add blue on top of it. One of my favorite colors to add to a shadow is violet. And adding any shadows you want. Look at that violet as that wood shadow. Isn't that just gorgeous? All right. I just love that on there. Drawing with colored pencils. The only time you might want to use Sharpie is if you want a more cartoony look. Maybe you want your art to be more cartoony, or if you want those blackest blacks. Now, if you are doing something that is black, I suggest that in the eye, let's see, can you use this Sharpie? So let's say you wanted this eye to be black, but now this bird kind of looks like it's possessed. It doesn't look alive anymore, all right? To give it some life, I love to go in with that white colored pencil. Can you kind of see at the white gel pen, and it draws on that black Sharpie really well.